Hey there and welcome back to Rimworld. My name is Pete and today we complete another episode of Rimworld Odyssey. Last time we left off, after exploring an ancient garrison, we collected a few treasures, but nothing groundbreaking, and then we launched our gravship towards the extreme desert to the location of an ancient stockpile containing a Gravcore. Now, as we set up camp for at least a few days, I think it's high time that we finally reform our ideology, something we did not do last time. Now, I've read plenty of comments on which meme to adopt next. The two that were most frequently mentioned were rancher and animal personhood, and I think I went over this already. I don't really like either one of them for the Stars of Som at the moment. Rancher would forbid any form of plant eating, while animal personhood would forbid any sort of meat eating. So I have decided that we're going to leave the whole meme thing be altogether for the moment, because I also don't want to force adopt anything here that doesn't really fit thematically. What we are going to do, however, is we're going to add the techist style, which allows us to have several buildings and floor types in this style, which in turn results in a small mood boost for our pawns. And even though we're not adding a new meme, we are going to add a new precept to our ideology. The Stars of Som are very much embracing the nomadic lifestyle, and the nomadic precept ensures that they keep doing so, unless they want to suffer increasingly severe mood penalties. Let us also add a third ritual. How about a dance party? For the time being, we will once more set this to the random recruit reward. Not that I'm desperately looking to keep growing our colony by any means necessary, but of the 4 reward types here, it simply strikes me as the most useful. In addition to this celestial celebration, we are then also going to make the Alpha Thrombo our venerated animal. Some of you also suggested putting boomalopes on this list, and we might do that later down the line. For now, the Alpha Thrombo strikes me as more mystical and mighty, good attributes to have to truly be venerated. So, with this small reform taken care of, mood among our colonists will slowly improve. Traveling frequently and the presence of Alpha Thrombo Terror Kittens grant a +5 mood bonus, the same effect as consuming a fine meal. By the way, I also just received this quest right here that I don't think we're going to take. A massive mech cluster would be sent our way, and even though the rewards here sound intriguing, we would only get them if we defeat that cluster, something I don't really see us being capable of, at least not for the moment. The colonist on offer here is then perhaps also not the best addition. Yes, she's a good fighter, but also 75 years old and a volatile misandrist, so for the moment at least, let's set our sights on gaining access to the ancient stockpile, which is unfortunately locked behind 3 sealed doors that we all need to hack open. And even though our teenager pilot/researcher River with an intellectual skill of 19 is making swift progress, we also have a nasty sandstorm start to blast through at this time. And not only that, this here will annoyingly happen from time to time. At random intervals, our hacking will get detected and will get locked out entirely for several hours. So, in the meantime, let's have Alex here build a new techist table to replace our old one, and we can also do the same with a shelf for the barracks. Both items have a star dominance rating of 5, so a single one of them in each room will be enough to give our colonists another small mood bonus. And while we are locked out of one entrance, we can then also start hacking the others. As you can see, River and Nailgraph are both on the task. After all, gaining access to the ancient stockpile is our highest priority at the moment, and I'm very much willing to sacrifice some research progress for it. As you can see, it also does not take long until we get locked out again. On the plus side, the entrance we attempted to hack first is now accessible once more, so all in all, it's a good thing we have 3 of them to alternate between. Apart from that, we watch Saber mine some uranium, and our Boomalope Apocalypse gives birth to another calf, which we are now going to name Division by Zero, as always named after a channel supporter of the same name and somewhat fitting in with Nanobuster Apocalypse and Clickety Clack. After all, dividing by 0 could have catastrophic consequences as well. A few hours later then, a sizable group of guinea pigs passes through the desert, and we use this opportunity to try and tame a pair of them. 1 male, 1 female, the 2 youngest in the bunch, and Brian is successful here, as we welcome Mookie to the flock, named after a Patreon supporter of mine. Just a few seconds later then, Reno successfully tames the male counterpart, now named Lyoko, after channel supporter Lyoko2696. The 2 of them will now join our other animals, and we've got quite a few of those already, and perhaps not enough food to sustain them for that much longer. And the cargo pod drop here unfortunately also does not bring us anything edible, just a bit more uranium. And so the wait continues. We spend a few hours hacking and then get locked out again. Let's hope we have enough food to last us until we finally gain access. To slightly improve our survival chances, we are going to construct a few hydroponics basins now. Since light is not an issue even with the sandstorm, I don't think we're going to need a sun lamp. And the one bright spot of the sandstorm at the moment is that our wind turbines are running at max efficiency, so we are producing enough power for a decently large setup here. Around midnight, River then also successfully hacks the first stockpile entrance. Saber, meanwhile, spends the night improving her respectable mining skill and gathering more steel. On the next morning then, she joins Kyla, Alex and Brent to explore this first of 3 stockpile bunkers. Unfortunately though, as you can see, we need to do even more hacking down here, as a large number of the doors we'll find will be locked and can only be accessed that way. The first unlocked room meanwhile is empty, so let's see what's behind Brent's door. And that too does not look overly promising for now, but then again we are just beginning to explore, and this is also only stockpile number 1 of 3. The room on Alex's side meanwhile also empty. The crate here can unfortunately not be looted, and so we can now proceed in the only direction left to us with our entire adventuring party assembled, passing through another empty room. Then the one behind it unfortunately also only has junk waiting for us, and apart from a dead body with nothing worth looting, we also don't find anything interesting in the next room, but at least this time the next door is unlocked. Behind it then we finally find our first bit of treasure, a survival meal pallet. Certainly not an overly valuable find, but considering that we're going to stay in the extreme desert for a few days, certainly not bad either. Behind the next door then we find some defenses and plenty of them, a wasp trap and 2 hunter traps. Ideally, let's deal with these one after another. Stepping into the doorway here just activates the wasps. These miniature melee drones are not particularly dangerous, but there's 3 of them in each trap, so it is easily possible to get swarmed and surrounded by them, which is of course something we want to avoid. So we stay behind the door and approach this carefully. As you can see, these drones are really not capable of taking too much damage, and with our combined efforts we avoid taking any damage whatsoever. Now onto the hunter traps, which will actually not be too tricky either. The drone emerging from such a trap does have a weak melee attack too. The main danger, however, is the explosion, but as you can see, that explosion is completely negated by Alex's shield belt. While we wait for that belt to recharge, we loot the first chest and find a sentience catalyst, a fantastic little device that essentially reduces the wildness rating of any animal, making them easier to train and easier to keep tamed. Up next then we approach the second trap. Same procedure as before, running away is not really possible but also not really necessary. Once again, Alex's shield blocks the explosion and she takes no further damage. From the sealed crate then we recover 2 more sentience catalysts, and while Brent now hacks the door to the south, our 2 melee fighters keep exploring. The next room here another dead end, but not an empty one, as we find another pallet full of packaged survival meals. The door to the south then reveals another room that is empty except for another skeleton, and this here, illuminated in ominous red, is then the last room. Unfortunately it is empty as well, and so our small adventuring party can return to the surface. Up there, the sandstorm is still going strong, and as you can see, our hacking is not really met with success yet, and it is now high time that we accept the waste pack drop quest we received last episode, and we're going to do so for the 25 units of Glitter World medicine. Neither hyperweave, silver nor reinforced barrels are something we desperately need at the moment. The toxic waste then arrives in drop pods, almost 500 units worth. Our reward is also immediately delivered alongside it, and even though the stuff will eventually deteriorate, we are in the middle of the extreme desert, so the environmental impact will hopefully be as low as possible. Just a few moments later then, we receive another quest, this one a charity quest. A small group of poor travelers are asking for 700 silver so that they can buy back a friend of theirs who was recently kidnapped. Now, I don't necessarily think we've got the resources to spare, but I also don't want to send them away empty-handed. So let's roleplay it like this. We're going to have the young and perhaps somewhat naive Furion help them out. He is a delicate, kind 8-year-old after all, and perhaps he's not fully understanding the value of currency just yet. With the dawn of a new morning and the sandstorm thankfully subsided, stockpile entrance number 2 is then successfully opened. Before we go down there though, we wait for Saber to finish her steel mining operation, and while we do, Nelgraf finishes the hack on entrance number 3 as well. So let's actually go down that one first. It is a bit closer to the ship, I think. Our adventuring party is the exact same as last time, and the first door we open also immediately reveals treasure as well as a hunter trap. This time Alex avoids taking any damage by simply standing around the corner, and she can now grab 4 advanced components. Going through the door to the north of the stockpile entrance reveals more useful things. Let's help ourselves to another batch of packaged survival meals before Brent hacks open another ancient blast door. The room beyond comes equipped with another wasp trap. Once more, simply taking a few steps into the room triggers it. This time Alex does unfortunately take a few minor injuries, but nonetheless the threat is quickly dealt with. From the crate then we recover 42 gravlight panels, very useful since we do want to expand our gravship further. The next room meanwhile seems to be empty but has 2 small chambers waiting for us, and the one on the right here that Alex opens first contains a component box, and as we all know you can never have enough of those. The room on the left, meanwhile, is empty, so we return to Brent, who has finished hacking another blast door. What lies beyond, however, is only more junk and ruins. The same is true for the room that follows, but at least we've got a streak of unlocked doors ahead of us, and also some more packaged survival meals to grab. Eventually then, another blast door is opened, and behind it we find a swarm of insects. Thankfully, it's only locusts, they are comparatively weak, but Alex gets herself stuck in the doorway here for a few seconds, and as a result cannot avoid taking a few more hits. And while our 4 adventurers are fighting for their lives down here, Nelgraf throws a party back at the gravship, a great way to boost the mood of our crew, while we thankfully do not have any major injuries to report. Nonetheless, Brent will administer some first aid to Saber, while Alex takes a peek into the next room. Another pallet full of survival meals awaits us, but apart from that it's empty. We do have another blast door left to hack though, back in this room. Nothing of use can be found behind it though, and with the next and final room offering a similar picture, we find ourselves with an anticlimactic end to this second stockpile, and once more send our 4 adventurers back up to the surface. The night then passes by uneventfully. As you can see, we have some minor malnutrition issues, but for now they are thankfully limited to a small number of animals, and the first few rice plants are not too far away from being ripe enough to harvest. First of all though, we delve right into the next dungeon. Undrafted, Kyla rushes forward into the next room, a bit careless perhaps, but luckily there are no defenses in this one, so she gets away unscathed. We begin hacking 2 doors simultaneously then. Brent is done with the one on the right side first. Alex follows suit just a few seconds later, but we open Brent's door first and find more bugs. Our team is quick enough to close the door behind them though, so we continue along the other path for now. Here we find an ancient security terminal that Brent can hack. An intellectual skill of 8 is required for this, and completing the hack opens a blast door somewhere deeper in the facility. Since that room was a dead end, however, it also seems like we have no other choice but to find the bugs now. This is admittedly a bit messy, as you can see some of them have gone through the doors already, so we can't really set up a nice choke point and perhaps take a bit more damage than necessary. Nonetheless, that damage is thankfully limited to Saber's sword song only, and we quickly emerge victorious. Once the 2 doors in this room have been hacked, we allow our pawns a quick meal. They have not yet had breakfast, and thankfully we find more food immediately in the room on the right here. While we hack open another door, let's quickly jump back to the surface. With Saber on a scavenger hunt, we need to find another way of gathering steel, so we are deconstructing some old ruins on the map, and then we return to the darkness of the ancient stockpile bunker, which for a change awaits us with a still functioning defense turret. So it's probably best we skip this room and save it for later. After a short while, the path through another blast door is cleared. Once more, we find some packaged survival meals behind it, and another security terminal in the room adjacent. Now, unfortunately, that terminal is also protected by a turret in the corner here that I noticed a tad bit late. Luckily, Brent gets away just in time. So we focus on the other door for now, but the picture is a very similar one. Ancient terminal in one corner, turret in the other. This time though, it looks like we have no other choice but to fight. Thanks to their combined melee prowess, Alex and Saber make quick work of the turret, and it also does not blow up in their faces, which is nice. Afterwards, we can empty the component box and hack the terminal. We're really lucky here that Brent has a solid intellectual skill of level 11, I believe, and it's also a good thing we were not overzealous with that turret in the previous room, which we have just deactivated. Further exploration then reveals a room with treasure but no defenses. Meanwhile, hacking this terminal opens another blast door. Once again though, with a turret behind it, we're going to leave it be for the moment. Instead, we open the sealed crate to find a biomutation pulsar, an artifact from the Anomaly expansion, capable of mutating harmless wildlife into terrifying creatures, flesh beasts in this case. The game does not quite make that clear. The next chamber then also has, well, not quite so terrifying creatures in it. Once again though, let's see if we can avoid them, or at least save them for last. And while we ponder our options, back on the surface, River and Nelgraf successfully complete the research of fabrication. Now, unfortunately, this only gets us halfway there. The logical next step is of course advanced fabrication, otherwise all of those lovely armor and bionic projects won't really be usable unless we can reliably make advanced components ourselves. The next blast door then finally reveals the big treasure. Let's not forget what we're here for. Protected by 2 traps and surrounded by plenty of graphite panels, we have found the Gravcore. This Ultratech device will allow us to expand our gravship beyond its current limits. In order to retrieve it though, we first need to clear the traps. The hunter drone swiftly explodes, with Alex taking no damage. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the wasps, but even with a few scratches and bruises, the combat engagement does not last for long, and after a short moment all defenses have been dealt with. It is now time to patch up the wounds and to grab the loot. As you can see, this time Alex actually suffered a nasty collection of injuries, luckily though nothing that will stick around permanently. Now, despite the Gravcore already in our possession, our tour through this ancient stockpile is not yet complete. It looks though as if we will be able to circumvent the insects after all, and Brent even gets to hack 2 more ancient terminals. The first reprograms the turret in the room that we have up until this point avoided. The second one unlocks another door that we don't really need to use anyway. The room is easily accessible from this side as well, and apart from another comparatively harmless hunter trap, there is nothing inside that we need to be worried about. This time we send Saber in to take it down. She too carries an excellent quality shield belt, and so she too takes no damage. To top it all off, inside of the crate we then find an Archotech leg. Next to the Gravcore, undoubtedly the most valuable thing we found on this adventure. And once it is secure inside of Brent's inventory, we can then finally also loot that component box inside of the room with that turret, a turret that is thankfully no longer programmed to harm us. And so our 4 adventurers leave this third and final underground stockpile too. As you can see, the rest of our colony is in the middle of bringing in their first hydroponic rice harvest, and that means that Reno can finally make more kibble for our animals. But first he will preach health to Alex to make our frontline fighter recover a tiny bit faster. The rest of our story here on this map tile is then quickly told. On the next morning we gather more steel from the nearby ruins and a vein close to the gravship. We harvest the remaining rice plants and ensure that new ones don't get planted. Brent finishes crafting his very first vac suit helmet, a helmet that, as the name suggests, protects against the vacuum of space, as that might very well be our next destination. In the evening then we break up camp and once more store everything on board of our gravship, the Hisa Mark II, and we can also watch Reno use one of our sentience catalysts, and of course he is going to use it on our Alpha Thrumbo Terror Kittens. Now what this gives us is a reduction of Terror Kittens' wildness rating by a flat 25%, bringing it down from an astronomical 99 to a much more manageable 74%, which then in turn also drastically lowers the minimum handling skill required to interact with the Alpha Thrumbo. That is not all it does, however. It also gives Terra Kittens a 10% consciousness boost, which is overall going to benefit the animal's combat capabilities ever so slightly. And so, with the last few units of steel hauled back onto the Gravship, I think it's time that we make the cut in today's episode. For this week's fan art, I want to thank Gracie for her portrayal of the not-so-secret fan-favorite Nelgraph. River's void-loving co-pilot will perhaps get a chance to steer our Gravship into orbit soon, where we have a few potentially interesting places to explore that are not too far away. So stay tuned for that, and in the meantime I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. As always, if you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or become a channel member or Patreon supporter. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.